oils. We find value in essential oils. We find opportunity in essential oils. We find health and wellness in essential oils. And well, all of that on its own sounds, wow, that's pretty significant. And I hope everybody's experience in doTERRA has been along the lines of significance. And by significant, I mean life-changing. Every one of us on this call, me included, I know, have had our own experiences where essential oils have changed outcomes for us. They've created better opportunities for us. They've created opportunities for us not just to help ourselves and our loved ones, but in many cases, people that we might not ever even know, might not ever even see. But I also want to add to that just thought before we get started. And Marty, it's your fault. You triggered it as you started sharing all the people who are joining us and the significance they hold for you and others and Danny and you. What a privilege it is to be not just involved in something significant, but to be involved in it with you.
That's how we feel about you, Dr. Hill.
You bring something that no matter how good we think we are, none of it works without you. Not even one piece of it. And your interactions on a daily basis, you're reaching out to people, even when I know you're tired and you're worn out and I need a break and I can't do this anymore. My wife and I just had that conversation yesterday. As you know, I'm all back in, which means I'm all back in. doTERRA is consuming somewhere between 50 and 70 hours of my week every week. And it's okay. I'm not complaining about that. But yesterday we were sitting there and my wife goes, I'm tired. Me too. I'm tired. And then, as if on cue, a few minutes later, we get a phone call from somebody who says, any chance you can come by? We need a little bit of help. And we went and visited some folks and we spent some time with them and offered our version of help to them. How do you get tired of that? I don't think we do, even though we have our moments, and I'm right there with you. But thank you for all that you do. I know we're going to have a wonderful discussion today, but thank you for everything that you're doing, because I know it takes a lot of effort. It really does. And we're deeply appreciative. And the people you're impacting, like I said, some of which you'll never know, are deeply appreciative. You're changing lives. So thank you. And Marty, when you called me and asked me if I would do this, that day when we spoke, so I got off the phone, I thought, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. But sure, I'll put this on my calendar. Yesterday evening, I was going through my calendar for the week, and I thought, oh, that's right. I get to have this meeting this morning, and I am so looking forward to it because it's rejuvenating for me. So
Wow.
Thank you for being here and letting me spend a little bit of time. So Marty, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Hill. We are all just thrilled that you're here. You know, I know many of you on this call know who Dr. Hill is, but just in case you're new and you're not familiar, Dr. Hill is one of the original founders of doTERRA, and I want to say original, like down to the original 3 founders of doTERRA.
You are correct.
He is Dr. Essential Oil and literally world renowned. His time and talents have helped millions of people all over the world in a way that most of us can't even imagine the impact he has had as an individual personally. And of course, as part of the team, the team of the company that was launched. But, you know, I've been a massive fan of Dr. Hill's from the very first convention when I met him, and he did the A to Z of essential oils, this sort of 4-hour intensive lecture where my hand cramped trying to write notes. And wow, what a beginning. He has privately consulted with and helped so many of our teammates and friends and really helped them select a good choice of essential oils for their health. So when I asked him to come on today, there's a million things about doTERRA we can talk about, but of course, we'd love a little mini update, Dr. Hill, just a little, maybe 5 minutes or something on the company overall. But, we're excited. We are all, excited to have you back involved in guiding the ship. And you, I know, are mentoring and actively involved with some of the key physicians at the corporate headquarters and the scientific team. But we really also want to hear about your expertise for our health today. And selfishly, we may have heard some of these things before. We may think we know something, but you are the guy, you are the man, and we want to hear from that. So maybe start us off with a little bit of a briefing on what's happening in the corporate headquarters. How did they lure you back in?
Lots of boring meetings. They said, you want to come to lots of boring meetings? And I said, I'm in. I can't wait. Can I be a little bit honest about that?
Yeah.
My departure from doTERRA, and I don't like to even use that word because that's not accurate. I've always been involved to some extent, but a convention, not this last one, but the one before, as I came off stage, my wife met me backstage. Sorry. And you were all so very, very kind to me. There was just such a resounding reception as I walked out on stage. And I said a lot of things in that short address that I gave that I felt like I needed to say, that were positional for the company, that were positional for me, that were definitive in what I think and what I feel. And when I came off stage and my wife met me, she gave me a big hug and said, "How was that?" And I said, "Closure. That's what that was. My work is finished. I'm done. There's really not much more than I can do." And she agreed with me, and we went home. And the objective in going home was really not as defeatist as that sounds. It's I needed to take care of myself. I needed to have some time to heal. I've had my own health journey that I've been battling along with everybody else. None of us get to escape it, no matter how much we know or what we do. I've spent years taking care of others and not taking care of myself. And so it was just time for us to do that. And so we had spent that previous year just doing that exactly. My partners were kind enough. I asked them to, can you just leave me alone for a while? Just let me go do what I need to do for me and for my family. And of course, I'm interested. I'll be in board meetings, but just let me go take care of myself. And so they did, and that was very appreciated. Well, now fast forward to convention last year, and as I'm getting ready to take the stage, I had begun having experiences that told me that my feeling, my anticipation that my work was done was not true. That I probably don't get that privilege to be able to say I'm finished. And it was cumbersome to me. It was worrisome to me because my wife and I were enjoying our time together, which we've not had, ironically, our whole marriage. We're madly in love with one another, but have never had time together. In our early days, it was going to school and trying to work and support a family. And then it was about building a practice and trying to do all the dynamics that associated with that. And then it became about building a company. And that really consumed both of our times. So we were enjoying being together, but I had begun having this strong inclination that that wasn't true. And my wife and I had talked about that prior to convention. And now I'm backstage, I'm getting ready to go out. And I said to myself, oh no, this isn't going to be good. Because I knew with great clarity what I was about to say. And so I came out and just made that announcement. And I meant it with all of my heart. And when I came off stage, my wife was there to greet me. And she didn't say, how was that? She said, what was that? I said, well, and she just gave me a big hug and said, it's okay, it's the right thing. So here we are, and here I am. And since coming back, it's been wonderful. So we have a lot of things that we have been working on in doTERRA. But I will tell you, with every fiber of my being, I've gone from being worried and deeply concerned over some things to being actively involved, and not because of me, but because we have unified effort in doTERRA, and we're cycled and focused around that this is a forever company. We have hard decisions that we need to make because of that. And we have, in some cases, directional changes that we need to make because of that. And those are the things that we're all engaged in actively and fully. Emily is here working along with me. We spend a lot of time together. We are spending a lot of times mentoring and sharing information. But I think we're both realizing that while that's wonderful and good, we have to really get down into the weeds with things too. And we're spending time doing that. And I can tell you, I believe it with all the fiber that I have, and that is that we're going to be okay. Saying that we're going to be okay, however, means some very specific things. You can expect some changes in doTERRA. One of the things that I'm most excited about is we can't, on the one hand, say we are the authority in essential oils and then spend all of our time talking about products that aren't. We need to clean up our product set. We just do. And some of you are not going to like some of the changes that we make. But we are an essential oil company. I was privileged not too long ago to be visiting with a group, and there was a lot of pushback on several different things. It was a very open conversation, and I just decided to get really bold. And I said, the reality of it is, maybe doTERRA is not right for you. If you want doTERRA to be something different than who we are, fully acknowledging that we have to get back to our roots, fully acknowledging that we have to know in our core that we are essential oils. If that's not a path that you want to walk down, then maybe it's not the path you should be on, because that is where we're headed. And that will bring lots of energy and lots of excitement, lots of opportunity. It doesn't mean that we don't have other products. I've come to really think about the essential oils now after all of these decades, after dedicating my entire career to essential oils. I've simplified it in my mind to just say this one thing: essential oils are chemical messengers. They are directed at your cells. They do turn cells on and off, specific function within cells, but they don't necessarily control the execution of that function. I can upregulate and downregulate. You've heard us talk about that multiples of times. When you hear us talk about all of the sciences that we're doing in doTERRA, my wife always just goes, no, nobody wants to hear any of that. I think she's right. We don't need to keep talking about all the different things that we do, pharmacokinetics and genomics, and we don't need to keep talking about all of those things. They're just fancy ways to say cells are directly impacted by essential oils. We do need things other than just essential oils, because if I upregulate a process as a chemical messenger, if that's what an essential oil really is, and that is what it does, it upregulates or downregulates specific function within your cells, I still need all the things that drive the function within the cells. I need vitamins, I need minerals, I need products like VMG as a good example. We have to drive the processes, but we also have to excite or shut down the processes. And so it's this marriage between the two, but the driving factor of that holds true with essential oils, that oils do something that nothing else really can. We don't have any other effective solutions for that. We can't target the body, the framework of the body and body functioning with anything else that we're aware of, but we can do it with essential oils. That's why essential oils have migrated into medicine and all of these other things. It's why we continue to hold the line on our research and study that we're doing, not just for efficacy, but for safety. That's where we're headed to. And I have much enthusiasm for that. And I can tell you that the company's in good hands. We're making the right decisions. We're making hard and difficult decisions almost every single day. My wife is getting a little bit frustrated because I'm usually not home for more than 10 or 15 minutes and my phone's ringing and it's yet another decision, some other bridge that we have to cross, and that requires discussion. And have confidence in where we're headed. Our confidence is also placed in each of you, as I intimated a little bit earlier. We have to get comfortable with who we are in doTERRA. And essential oils is definitively who we are. And when we take that and we combine it with products that are meaningful, which is a personal vision of mine, like we need to get purposeful in what we're doing with products. We are about, if you were to ask me who is doTERRA, I would tell you we are essential oils, but we are focused on how to be healthy. We're focused on how to work in models of prevention and sustenance, being able to sustain our health, being able to change the dynamics of our health. That requires extreme focus in product. And that will be some of the changes that you'll see going forward. Clarity for why we have products and what they're intended to do. That might mean and will mean some products need to go away. Because I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it out. If you're buying lip gloss from doTERRA, you're foolish. We don't need products like that.
Yeah.
We really don't. And even though I know maybe some of you really, I know Danny loves it himself. He uses it all the time, but it's just, I use that as an extreme example. I don't know why we're wasting time and effort and resources on things that really are not involved in the deeper issues of how are we maintaining health, especially in a time where we have so much insult that comes to us on a daily basis. Stress and anxiety and all the frustrations of the world environment that we live in, all the toxicity that we surround ourselves in constantly, poor nutrition in our food supply. I mean, these are all real problems that for a long time, if we talked about, somehow you were misguided. You're a conscientious objector. You don't know very much, do you? But now it's highly recognized that these are problems. These are societal problems, and they exist throughout the whole world. And I love that we have solutions that can help mitigate some of that. So let's stay very focused on those solutions. So hopefully that's helpful, but that's where we're focused. And, you know, operationally, we're always fine-tuning those things, and we're getting better operationally. But I think functionally, this is where we really want to focus our time and where we can do the most good as we come back and we share our time and our energy. And as you go forward with confidence, know that we're cycling around those things. So hopefully that's helpful, Marty.
That is helpful. And you've mentioned a few things I want to tie into this next question, Dr. Hill. One of the points that you've made is that there's a timelessness around the essential oils that have been for thousands of years a fabulous solution. And while I know that, you know, in my 17 almost years with doTERRA, that the science aspect is behind the scenes, the research that's going on, your team there at corporate that do a phenomenal job of that. The truth is, if the reason there are as many people on this call and probably several dozens for each one that's on the call that we all personally know, it's because we made the oils simple enough for people to understand without complexity so that they could reach for their essential oils and use them in their daily life. And, you know, the aroma touch technique, the simplicity of what was the wellness kits, you know, the simple things like this. When you say going back to that, I hope that's a piece of that, but in this journey, you know, we've been using our essential oils, many of us in many different ways. And there've been quite a few of them added, right? There's a couple hundred, I think, at this point, blends and singles.
Well,
Today,
keep going. There's more than that.
Well, they probably are, but if we can kind of narrow down today, because of course we all want to talk to you for like the next 3 years nonstop, but this season of the year, this time in our world, our immune systems are bombarded, and we really, you know, I think a bit of a review about some of the fundamentals of the oils. Of course, there's some blends, but some of the single oils we all need to make sure are part of our regular preventive use routine is something we'd love to hear something about today from you if you get a chance.
Yeah, I mean, you've stirred a lot of thoughts in my mind, Marty. And, you know, yes, I will tell you, yes, our plan going forward does include that. You know, I did something interesting. I probably shouldn't share this, but I did it for my own information. I've been asking people, you know, excluding this convention with what we just did with frankincense, which I'm really excited about. We've been working on that for many years. Years ago, we talked about we need to have a way that we can combine frankincense with boswellic acids. And isn't it funny that it's taken us all of the, you'd think that would be such a simple thing, but it isn't. To meet the standards that we have for quality and efficacy, it wasn't such a simple thing. And but that, I think that indicates to you how focused we've been in some areas this way to carry something forward for years until we finally got to the point where like we can do it and we can do it the right way. And what a significant thing that was. But you think about what we've been doing with the essential oils. Some of my partners or others get upset when I say things like this, but I'm just always going to be an honest person. And you ask me how I feel, so I'm going to tell you. When was the last time I've asked people this question? When was the last time prior to this last convention that we launched an essential oil that you felt was purposeful for your health? And virtually every individual that I've spoken to in doTERRA, and it's not just been a few, has said, I don't remember if it was copaiba or turmeric, but nothing since then. And we have launched dozens and dozens of essential oils since then. And I have oils sitting right behind me in my office right now. I just came out of a meeting, and this was one of the discussion threads that we had. What does that oil do? We can't make any health claims with it. And so why do we have it? Sometimes being really the authority in essential oils means to not be afraid to say, we don't need that oil. That doesn't fit into our guidelines as a company. It doesn't mean that we can't be exploring new oils and new combinations. It doesn't mean that we can't be thought leaders in the essential oils. But it does mean that we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. So, Marty, if I posed a question in this meeting that I was in this morning, knowing that we have well over 300 oils now. Do we need 200 oils? Do we need 100 oils? Do we need 50 oils? I don't know what that number is. I'm telling you, it's not what it is right now today, in my opinion, because I'm focused in the extreme ends of, if I'm talking with somebody about an essential oil, I want to be able to recommend that oil for the outcomes that it will represent for them. In simplicity, Marty, you're thinking about the right thing when you talk about simplicity. And I've been exposed to essential oils. I've used them in clinical practice. I've been in hospitals and universities. We've done all kinds of research all over the world. And so I think I've had virtually almost every discussion that could be had about essential oils. And I'm amazed. I the other day went through some critical thinking for myself on what's the new thing that I'm going to talk about with essential oils. And do you know what I came to? The new thing is the same thing that it's always been.
Yay. That's what we want to hear.
Essential oils work. And one of the things that I love about the essential oils is that we don't have to be complex. Many of you have heard me talk about metabolic capacity and Let's not overwhelm ourselves, that when we're really struggling and we do have a lot of health challenges, that's not the time to do every single essential oil we can think of and imagine in ourselves. And we end up with this long litany of, I'm doing all 30 of these oils, but it's not helping me. We're overwhelming ourselves. And so there are some simplistic things that we need to do, and we need to do it in the context of things that we can do on a daily basis. And immunity for me is one of those. So citrus. Now I'm going to tell you, citrus is an example of where personally I think we have way too many citrus oils. I can't even list them all. I found a new one this morning that I didn't even know we had. I'm like, where did this come from? And why do we even have it? So limit your, I know, okay, I know why we have so many citrus oils, because everyone loves citrus and you probably have your favorites, and that's fine. But I want you to choose from 3 oils in terms of your health benefit in the citrus oil category. And you've heard me say this dozens and dozens of times. I'm not probably going to change why I'm saying it. So I'm just going to continue to say the same simplistic things. And I have to remind myself of this too. Lemon, grapefruit, wild orange, and I would add tangerine into that too. Those are the 4 that I think you could find sufficient daily use for since we're going to talk a little bit about immunity and helping to support a healthy, strong immune function in the body. And it's primarily because of limonene, which you've heard me talk about many, many times. Limonene is interesting because it really helps the body with its levels of glutathione, which is the master antioxidant in the body. Unfortunately, I can't give you glutathione as a supplement. Your body has to construct that through the cells. But limonene, remember earlier we talked about that essential oils are chemical messengers to your cells? Mm-hmm. Limonene stimulates the production, lots and lots of research, and helps the body to sustain higher levels of glutathione. And glutathione is really probably one of those core constructs of a good, healthy, strong immune response, meaning resilient, meaning that my body can protect itself in a lot of different ways. So lemon oil or grapefruit oil or wild orange or tangerine. I kind of fluctuate between tangerine and wild orange are my 2 favorites. But any of those 4 oils would be wonderful for you. You have to talk about the benefits of On Guard and not being afraid to do that with consistency. The one area that I think we underplay the value of essential oils is we kind of feel like if we're not using them on our person, somehow we're not taking full advantage of the essential oil. But there's a lot of the oils that we should be thinking about for diffusion, for cleansing surfaces. That's very much a part of what I would call external immunity, on how we're just protecting ourselves from exposure. But that would be even the citrus oils fit into that same category of being able to be cleansers and used that way to just help us to reduce or minimize our exposure. So think about the oils and On Guard in that way. But On Guard, I wonder sometimes if On Guard is just for use seasonally, or is that something we do consistently? And my mind tells me it's something that we do with consistency. You know, in the height of some of the seasonal challenges that we face, On Guard is something that I think we can benefit from on a daily basis. But in the regular aspect of what we do working in a model of prevention, I think it's good to cycle back to On Guard with some routine and some regularity, if that makes some sense. You cannot have good, strong, effective immunity if you're going to undermine the value of needing vitamins and minerals and enzymes within your body. So I love our new VMG. I love Lifelong Vitality, but VMG for me, if I don't use that on a daily basis, I feel the difference. And I've been really excited about VMG for that reason. I feel like I have more energy. I feel like my body's more resilient. And it's because I'm getting not just good vitamin and mineral content, but I'm getting greens and some of the other things that I need as well. So I get this broad spectrum of activity of giving my body nutrient density, which is an important factor in good, healthy immunity. And then I think you should choose an oil that you want to diffuse that just makes you feel better. I love diffusing citrus oils, but there's lots of oils that you could choose. We have adaptive, we have any number of ones, and don't believe for a moment that not keeping your emotions or your mental state at its peak optimum is not a wise thing to do. It is, and stress alone will undermine your body's immune capability almost single-handedly. So be sure that you're doing something in the way of diffusion just to elevate your mood, even if you're doing the simplest of things, which is just breathing the aroma by cupping your hands together. Do that routinely, and don't forget about that simple thing that you can do. Outside of that, I think we just get into personal choice in terms of our routines and the things that we would most like to do. But that's kind of a basic element of what we do, what I do for myself. And, especially with all of my travel, which has started again. My wife and I went through our travel schedule, and that didn't go over so well. She's like, "Are we still not even going to really be home again until April?" And I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much. That's the way it is." And we're going to go and enjoy that and love meeting everybody, but we're also going to do the things that I just talked about to keep ourselves safe and protected. Of course, I'm going to also add into that the PB Restore is a valuable part of that too. My wife, I laugh at her because I watch her and her routines on a daily basis, and Terrazyme and PB Restore, and she'll be getting that for herself, and I'm always and she's like, "Oh, would you like one?" Like, of course I would. So just don't forget about the simpleness of the routines that you can be in. And I think this is a key message we need to remember is that you're going to deal with your health in one way or the other. One way is I'm going to ignore my health and I'm going to deal with trying to combat all of the challenges that I'm having in my health. The other way is that I'm going to try to develop routines that allow me to maintain a reasonable amount of my health. And then anything I have to deal with outside of that, I can just deal with as they come. But we have to lay this foundation for ourselves. So we talked about that as being immunity, but I want you to think about that a little bit differently. It's really about laying this foundation that our body can draw upon to be able to have normal, healthy function. And resiliency is kind of the cornerstone of that. My body needs to be resilient so that I can adapt to any number of circumstances. So what I really told you was that we need to have good, healthy immunity. We need to control and manage our stress. And we need to have good, nutritious, and wholesome nutrition is what we're looking for. Now, I would add other things into that too. There's more. I mean, I'm going to talk with you about inflammation and some of these other things, which are also imperative for good, healthy, long-term outcomes with our health. But those are things that we could talk to or refer to more as targeted solutions. And so frankincense, now I didn't talk about that, but I will tell you, since we launched the frankincense capsule with the boswellic acid, that's a daily use product for me. I can build an argument why anybody would want to have that because of how sustaining it is. And we get the advantage of multiple pathways that we're working through to the same end or the same outcomes. And so I like that combination, and I would add that to your daily routine.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask you about in the On Guard Plus capsule has the Melissa and oregano in it. And, I know there's been a lot of conversation around those oils sometimes, and then we go away from conversation around those oils. Is there anything you can talk to on, sometimes people have said, oh, oregano and cinnamon, top, 1 and 2 in the protection mode. Melissa, one that will help you return to good health quickly. Is there anything with those you can share, and those, particularly those 3 oils I'm just curious about?
Well, okay, so cinnamon and cassia. I'm going to put cassia into the same category as cinnamon. And to be honest with you, a cinnamon aldehyde is what we want. Aldehydes are really interesting to me because if we look at it functionally, aldehydes is a class of chemistry, but it disrupts communication of microbes. I mean, it, if we can't not communicate, even we say microbes, but everything in your body is about communication, even cellular communication. And we can disrupt that unhealthy communication when we're dealing with some type of an outside influence in our immunity, for example. Aldehydes are really powerful. But cinnamon aldehyde, which is the compound that we're really after, there's more of it in cassia than there is in cinnamon. And we don't talk about cassia enough. In fact, I would tell you, if I had an opportunity, I would even strongly consider that in the On Guard formula, cassia might be better.
Huh.
I was in a meeting this morning where I posed that question. If cinnamon aldehyde is really the profound benefit that we're looking for, we get a lot more in cassia than we do in cinnamon. Now, there's other chemistry involved in both of those, and that weighs into it as well. But cassia as a single oil would be one that you would think of. Let's talk specifically about the oregano, and let's talk about the melissa that I added to the On Guard Plus. So it's the On Guard formula, but then we added oregano and we added the melissa. Oregano is powerful because as a phenol, it disrupts cellular membranes. And so it has a strong opportunity to help improve our immune capability within the body. And then if we look at melissa, beta-caryophyllene is why I added that in there. At the time, we didn't have copaiba, but the beta-caryophyllene is what I was after in the melissa. And while it is a really good interactive for your body's immune capability, it also is very good for viral components. And so that's the other reason why that was added into that. I'm just going to talk really openly with you. I love the On Guard Plus because of those 2 additional oils that we added into the formula. I think it gives you just a little bit of the extra boost that you need. That kind of came about because I know you have your own devices, or in the early days, Marty, you'll remember, and you too, Danny, we spent a lot of time talking about capsules that you could make on your own and all these different things that you could do. And I won't name them. We all have names for all of them. We all know what we're talking about. But the On Guard Plus was meant to ease some of that burden for you. And it was important that those 2 additional oils be added into that. And it's really effective. And I like, if you're going to talk about that, talk about the whole On Guard line. I mean, we've covered all of the bases for you with the chewable tablets, with the On Guard Plus, and with the On Guard formulation. I love the On Guard throat lozenge. We also talk about surface things, and so we've got cleansers and other things that are very powerful and very effective that way. And it's a good example of saying very focused on the value that we find with an essential oil, but instead of going off into other things, stay focused on that oil, but give people all of the advantages that are associated with that. So we can clean the surfaces that we come in contact with. We can diffuse it into the air. We can take it internally and receive the added benefit that comes from that. And then we get not only the On Guard, but we get some of the important vitamin or other, let's just call them botanicals as a category. So whether it's the beta glucan or the vitamin C, we get other things that are within that tablet, the chewable tablet of the On Guard, that help to facilitate and drive the process within the body. So that's a good example of where I think we should really concentrate on for the future, is that we need every kind of oil we can possibly think of, or do we need to maximize the benefits that are associated with a wonderful blend that we've created? Frankincense is another good example of that, where we said we love boswellic acids, but let's take the boswellic acids and let's add them with the frankincense oil. And there's a reason for doing that. Boswellic acids, as powerful as they are, they're more powerful, they're more readily absorbed in the presence of some type of a fat. And what we have with the essential oils is that lipid content, and it helps us to have more benefit coming from the boswellic acids. We see the same thing with turmeric and what we're doing with the botanical and the essential oil. Everyone loves turmeric, but your body does not readily assimilate that. And so that's been the criticism of turmeric. And yet when we combine that with the essential oil, the curcuminoids along with the turmerones, we combine those two together, we get 7 times the absorption of the botanical, and all of a sudden it's very effective for you. So I like when we stay focused on what's core and central to who we are as a company, and how do we maximize the benefits that come from those things. It gives you a little bit of an indication of where we might be headed to in the future.
I love that. And, Dr. Hill, you created the aroma touch technique. And I was privileged
Yeah.
to learn that with you and to, learn how to
Marty,
each other's.
did I meet you for the first time? Was it not up north in Tremonton, or was it at the Aroma Touch that I did up there?
It wasn't at that one, but I did take the aroma touch with you at the Little America Ballroom once. But I don't remember exactly where we met, except that I think it was in the little teeny corporate office you all used to have in the beginning with Nicole and Danny Larson. But one of the things I wanted to say about aroma touch, because it is so powerful, and I've loved doing it for hundreds of people and over the years. And again, back to a simple model of preventive care. Can you just talk for a minute about how that could be slotted into one's life, and or how we show people the value of oils?
Yeah, so just real briefly, where that really came from was I was spending all of my time talking with people about essential oils, and I would come home from Japan being crammed in a middle seat at the back of the airplane, and I'd be in a lot of pain when I'd come home and tired and exhausted. And my wife would always ask me the same question: what can I do for you? Can I put oils on you? And of course, I'm never going to turn that down. And so I would, I could use this, or I could use this. And very kindly, she'd put them on my feet, or she'd put them on my back. And it always helped me. I coupled that with, I was constantly getting these questions for Dr. Hill: what do I do for? Which that's still a very active part of my life. And I never mind when people ask me how maybe I can be helpful, or how they can help themselves. That never bothers me. That's a great privilege with what I've been able to be involved with. But I started thinking to myself, oils are as powerful as they are. Why don't we have a way that we can use them with consistency, that regardless of your experience level, regardless of your knowledge, maybe you know everything about chemistry, maybe you know nothing about chemistry, maybe you don't care about any of those things. I just know I love the essential oils. It was the combination of those two things that led me to say, okay, why don't I just create a way that people can use the oils with consistency and with calculated outcomes, that I know that they're going to receive benefit, not just once in a while, or only if it matches these circumstances. And so then I started thinking about my patient care models. In all of my patients, in all of their varieties, I could narrow it down to 3 or 4 reasons why they were there every single time. Uncontrolled inflammation, huge amounts of stress in their life, poor immunity, and they just felt like as a result, all their body systems, everything was just out of balance, out of whack. And it's easy to treat people for just one of those things. Well, inflammation, well, here's a steroid. That's the framework that I was coming from. And so oils for me were changing that dynamic very early on in my experience with essential oils. And so I undertook to create the Aroma Touch, which, as you know, has at its core those 4 systemic constants, is what I call them, that we all need to deal with these things. We need to deal with stress. We need good, healthy immunity. We need to control and manage inflammation, and we need good response within our body, balance of our body systems, which I refer to as homeostasis. And there's a lot of dynamics about how essential oils work within each one of those capacities. I selected 8 essential oils that I really anticipated when I created the Aroma Touch that at some point I would up level the essential oils. I'll probably change these at some point. But it's been interesting to me that I've never felt that need because people consistently have the benefit of those outcomes. And it is a very simplistic model. When I first created the Aroma Touch, there was nothing simple about it. I couldn't even do it without reading my own notes. It was that complicated. Every oil was some whole new thing and trying to stimulate certain areas of the body and specific outcomes. And it was very frustrating, so much so that I finally quit. I said, this has been I spent over a year on it, and I'm like, it's effective, it works, but nobody's ever going to be able to do this. And it was actually Emily Wright who came to my office one day, and she goes, I hear you're a quitter. I said, and I hear I hear that I don't like you. So that works out fine. That works out good. I was annoyed. And she says, I don't know what you've been working on. I have no idea. I know you've spent more than a year working on it, and that you've now quit and walked away from it. And I said, Emily, it's powerful, but I can't even do it without reading my notes, and I created it. So it's useless. And she goes, well, if you're happy being a quitter. And she walked out of my office. I was so angry. I really was. I'm like, I don't even like her. I don't even know how I'm even talking to her. And it inspired me a little bit to say, well, then maybe I just need to make it simple. And it's when I really started digging into more research and my own experience and understanding that I don't have to have something new for every oil. I have to, and that's where the body rhythms and things came from, that we can stimulate homeostasis and put the body at ease by tapping into the rhythms that exist within the body. Known science and well understood. How did I miss that? And we simplified it and made it very easy. I'm asked this question, so that's, sorry, probably more than you wanted, but.
No, I love that because I think that sometimes we have gotten caught up in our complexity. And I love that the beauty and simplicity and the impact of the Aroma Touch technique, as I've witnessed it and received it, I think is just really powerful. As we're coming near the end of this time with you, Dr. Hill, there's a question that's kind of come up for me. I didn't, pose it.
Well, wait, Marty. I didn't get to answer your other question. I gave you an explanation of where it came from, but you're right. It's the simplicity of the Aroma Touch. And the answer to your question is, if you're not using it, if you don't know it, you need to learn it. Because it's sustaining for you and for your family. And if you want to know what's our number one go-to, I beg my wife for an Aroma Touch. And anytime she gives it to me, my whole life changes. I feel this whole new sense of purpose, and it solves a lot of the ongoing issues that I have, and the same in her case in reverse, and for people that we love and we care about. So it's, early on, I thought the Aroma Touch would be something. Dave Sterling came to me and said that we don't want that in doTERRA, until I gave him an Aroma Touch. And he says, we want this in doTERRA. I'm like, yeah. And so it's just been a labor of love ever since. And so I'm begging you, learn the Aroma Touch and incorporate it into what you're doing. We've tried to make it really easy. I will also tell you, we're about to make some big changes with the Aroma Touch that I know you, Marty, will be in particular very happy about. And allowing more people to have access and share. And please just learn the Aroma Touch. So back to your other question real quick, Marty.
No, well, I was going to say, and add to that, in these times, I think people really need the touch element. And I think that the Aroma Touch invites us to spread some love and spread some care and connection with others that we all desperately need more and more. It's healing in its own form as well, which you kindly taught us all
Yeah,
to bring in.
yeah.
Last thing I guess I want to say is, many people have individual health concerns, and as we always have, and sometimes they'll want to turn somewhere for answers, like which oils do I use for this or that. It's a constant learning process. Everybody's body's different, their situation's different. Is there anything you can suggest to people of how they can learn more? Where do you think is the best next step for people to empower themselves to learn about how they can help their body?
This is a multifaceted question for me, and I think on the part of doTERRA, we need to be more generous with the type of meetings that we're doing on the corporate side. We need to just be willing to re-educate people on the basics of essential oils. We need to not be afraid to stand up and talk about the Home Essentials Kit. We need to not be afraid, which was originally, you'll remember, Marty, and you too, Danny, that was the Dr. Mom Kit, and then it migrated to the Family Physician Kit, and then it migrated to the Home Essentials Kit. And we need to not be afraid to teach people. In fact, I'll be really bold and tell you, if somebody came to me and said, you can have 10 essential oils and that's it, those are the ones I would choose.
Yep.
I could manage anything with my family. I would miss turmeric and the duo cap and some of those things, but there's nothing I can't do with those 10 oils. That's why we selected those oils in the very beginning. They're representative of the very first oils that we started with. This is what we need to be healthy at a minimum. And so that, I think we need to be sure that we're educating people on what you've said so very well and have pointed out multiple times now, the simpleness of the essential oils. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to trust doTERRA that safety and those kinds of things are important to us too. And let's just teach you the basics and give you an essential oil experience, which is one of the reasons why I like the Aroma Touch. It allows people with immediacy to receive and share an essential oil experience that they don't have to know everything about. They can just do it with confidence and let them have the outcomes that they most assuredly will. That's one. The other thing I think we need to do is, I think sometimes, I've never been a wellness advocate. I just haven't. And so I'm mindful of that I shouldn't try to tell people what they should do or that I know more than you. Even though I'm not a wellness advocate, Valerie, I know more than you do about being a wellness advocate. It's really not the case. And I remind myself of that. And in that thought process, I would caution you to not underestimate your value. Don't feel like you need permission to share your own experiences, and don't feel like you somehow have to fit into a framework that we create magically because we know everything, and that allows you to now go out and share your story. So don't have your own confidence. Believe your own experiences and be willing to share them. The other one is this is going to sound self-serving, and it isn't, and so please don't take it that way. In my history in doTERRA, the shortest year I ever had of travel was 285 days. I averaged more than 300 days a year for my entire time in doTERRA until that year I finally stepped away and said I need to take care of myself for a while. I can't go back to that. I can't. I can't leave my family again. I can't do it. And so while I am doing some traveling and I am going places and trying to be available to people, I've recognized that I need to do something different than what I've done before in making myself more available. And so I'm exploring lots of options right now. We've filmed several segments of Ask Dr. Hill. That's coming back. I don't know if I like it. It's a framework that I don't normally sit within for, they're saying, but everyone loves this type of interaction. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I would love to do a podcast of some sort called Drop Talk. where I just talk about essential oils, and I host a number of different subject matter. And I'm just, Marty, trying to figure out how do I expand my reach, and not because I'm trying to be popular, but because my time is limited. I'm 65. And while I feel like I can do this for another 20 years, I certainly want to spend time with my wife and my family. And, even my kids have recently come to me and say, Dad, we just need time with you. You've been gone our whole life. And they're correct. And they love doTERRA, and they know why we've done all the things that we've done. And they feel proud because of it. And they themselves have sacrificed. So I'm just trying to find new ways that maybe I can share my information, my knowledge, my experience without having to get on an airplane and travel halfway around the world, or be gone even 300 days a year, or even 100 days a year. I need to be able to maximize my opportunity to share what I know. My worst fear has been that I'll have a lot of knowledge that's not known by others, and that could really be for their benefit. And so I'm just trying to find ways I can share that. And I'm open to any suggestions, because I admittedly don't know how to do this, because my approach to that in the past has just been get on an airplane and go. And
Well,
which is how we built the company. And education is important. And so I'm asking you to do the very same thing that I just said I'm trying to do as well, which is share your own stories. We're all trying to find better ways that we can do that.
well, there's so many great ways to use the communication tools and technology of these times. And we absolutely love your knowledge, and so very grateful that you were able to take an hour out of your crazy schedule again to be with all of us today. But each
I'm
one
just
of,
going into more boring meetings.
I know, hopefully this
I've
one
got a
wasn't boring.
4-hour meeting ahead of me
Oh,
right after I get
yikes.
off the phone with you.
Oh
So
my goodness.
this has been a privilege for me.
Well, and each of us, knows a whole bunch of people that maybe couldn't make it at this time that will love listening to this later. We all love seeing you. We all love our opportunity to hear more from you whenever and however that comes. And you do have such tremendous knowledge, but you've also really giving us frameworks today and in other things you've done to move ahead ourselves and really take those steps with our families, with our friends, with our team, with our community. And that's what doTERRA is really about, is how we can take these oils out into the world and make a difference for the health of our world. And it's so many beautiful things that you shared. And thank you very much for your time. Is there any last minute comments you want to make for everybody before we sign on?
Of course there is.
Good.
It's really just adding to what you said, Marty. I hope you know of our love and appreciation for you. I sometimes long for the days where I knew every single person by name and had personal interaction with them. Remember Dave Sterling saying years ago, remember these times, because we will long for them at some point in the future. And that's where I'm at. I long for those days. I extend an invitation to you that whether it's me or one of my partners or any of the individuals here from doTERRA, communicate with us. When you see us, please come and say hello. It's meaningful to me. I was in my office the other day, and I'll leave you with this. And a beautiful young woman walked in my office unannounced. And I thought I recognized her. I said, I know you. And she goes, you do? And I said, you're going to need to remind me. But it was, whatever our association was, I know it was significant. It was something that was powerful. And she said, the last time you saw me, Dr. Hill, I was in a wheelchair. And that was quite a few years ago in Europe. And it instantly came flooding back to me. I said, I had just come off stage, and Jordan came and grabbed me and said, I have somebody that you need to talk to. And I met you out in the foyer in the lobby, and we found a little corner. You came over to that corner with me, and we sat and talked about you and what you could do. And she goes, do you know that I got up out of my wheelchair in just a short period of time? And what a rich experience that is. What I love about that experience, and we typically don't get to hear the follow-up to those conversations. I don't know how many people I've had the privilege to talk to around the world. I don't know how many people I've impacted. So when we get to hear those opportunities, or when somebody, I didn't know she gave me a beautiful little plant and with a card, and I'll remember her. Those are powerful experiences. They're not unique to me. They aren't. You've had similar experiences. Maybe it's not somebody getting their life back and getting up out of their wheelchair. And I remember some of the things I shared with her, and I'm not intimating that it was because I talked to her that that happened. I know she did a number of different things, but that's the power of doTERRA in my mind. That's why it's so important we protect who we are. We move forward with confidence and with courage and with excitement and enthusiasm for what that represents to us. I have a firm belief that we become more of who we are by giving more of ourselves to others. There's just something that happens in that dynamic. I also believe that we become more than what we're capable of when in earnest we're trying to do that. If for no other reason, I've left my journey in doTERRA because it's afforded me that unique opportunity. So on behalf of myself, Marty, and all of my partners and all of us here at doTERRA, thank you for everything that you're doing. I hope your experiences are rich and full and meaningful. Make them uniquely yours. Because in the end, that's what you'll remember the most. So we love you. We care about you. I'm looking forward to more time with you. Marty, thank you for asking me to do this. It really is a highlight for me. I enjoyed having these kinds of conversations much more than the boring meeting I'm about to go to. So thank you.
Thank you
for
so
letting me
much,
be with
Dr.
you.
Hill. We all send our love and our care and our appreciation to you for all that you've created for all of us. Thank
And you're
you.
getting a standing ovation again.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yay!
everyone.
Dr. Hill.
Have a
So good
great
to see you
day.
all.
Have a
Love
great
you all.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Before everyone hops off, I just want to make a few announcements. I know, Dr. Hill, you need to go.
Oh, I'm
What a
weak.
gift. What a gift. Thank you all
Uh.
so much for joining us live. And if you are new to our call, I want to let you know I'm Aisha Harley. If I've not met you, I'm one of the founders of the Visionary Leaders and kind of help admin this call. We do meet every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we have a lineup of great calls and really great guests joining us this year. So we love it when you join us live to have your energy here with us. And if you want to catch the recording, these get posted by the following Wednesday on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple Podcast. If you go to our team website at hellovisionary.life, all of the information about our podcast and the recordings can be found on the front page. The link is the same every single week. So if you have that link, just put it on your calendar. And next Monday, Asha McLaughlin will be giving us a lowdown on the best oils for Valentine's Day and for self-love and love in the bedroom and all things love. So we're really looking forward to that. And Marty, again, thank you so much for hosting the call today. That was just so beautiful and inspiring. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Have a great week.